Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. Today we have a great show planned for you where, of course, in the first half hour, as we normally do, we have a guest for an interview. Although I believe this is the first time or maybe the second time, need to double check that. But we're going to be talking to a company called nWay, and it's going to be all about video games and more specifically mobile games and really the state of the industry in general. It's going to be a very interesting conversation, so looking forward to that. In the second part of the program, you can look forward to computer and technology news, and that's where we go over the most pressing news stories of the day. And we're going to keep you up to speed. So all that and more. And by the way, real quick, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything from the show notes, a link to our guest website, the live video feed, which you can also find over at twitch.tv/computeramerica, and a lot more. So check it out there, computeramerica.com. Okay, so not going to waste any time. It's been a short week, just coming off of the holidays, and we are already on Friday. It's crazy to think about, but we're going to finish out strong. So why don't we go ahead, get our guest on, and just get started. So as I said before, joining us today is a company called nWay, and to tell us all about what they do, how they do it, and all that good stuff. Welcome onto the show, Mr. TK, Mr. Taehoon Kim, and he is the co-founder and CEO of the company. So, TK, how you doing? Welcome on to Computer America.
Hey, thank you. Very excited to have be on your show.
Yeah, our pleasure. So obviously, this conversation, as I said before, kind of outlined, can go a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of ground to cover. But I think the best way to start would be a bit about nWay, its history, when did it start, and what is nWay's mission?
Sure. Yeah, nWay is a startup that was founded in 2011 in San Francisco. And back then, our goal was to create high-quality, competitive, real-time multiplayer games for emerging platforms such as mobile, smart TV, browsers. And we've created our own proprietary technology to enable this. Right now we're kind of focused on developing and publishing cross-play, cross-progression games on mobile, PC, and console.
I gotcha. And that is obviously a tall order. And really, one of the words that you use there, cross-play, that comes up quite often and has been coming up, the idea that it doesn't matter if your friend is playing on mobile, on console, on PC, on any of the different consoles. Everyone wants to be able to play together, and I'm sure that's going to come up as well. But we haven't, I think, reached the dream of anyone being able to play with everyone, and that could be for a variety of reasons, which I'm sure we'll get into. But nWay itself, being able to publish these games. What games have you already created? Maybe our listeners are familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, at the beginning, our mission was to bring console quality games on all these new platforms that were emerging at the time. And so we automatically had to think about things like crossplay from the very beginning. We've had two games so far. So our first game, Chronoblade, which was the first kind of action RPG game with real-time PvP to work on both Facebook and mobile. We launched this back in 2012. The game was very successful in Asia, reaching like number 4 top grossing in Korea and number 7 in China. And then the second game is Power Rangers Legacy Wars. So we licensed the Power Rangers IP, and we launched this about 2.5 years ago. It was the first PvP-only real-time fighting game on mobile.
Wow.
So from your phone being in your pocket to playing with a real person in under 12 seconds. So very accessible and easy to just get a match going. And the game was very successful in the West, reaching about 45 million downloads. And the game is also famous for doing a Street Fighter crossover. So we created a hybrid character called Ryu Ranger, which is where Ryu from Street Fighter turns into a Power Ranger. We also created a short film to tell the story about how Ryu became Power Ranger with Lionsgate and Hasbro. We've been having a lot of fun with that.
So both of these right away, they're both mobile, and that's why I think it's worth mentioning, because I don't want to say that I'm a snob and that kind of thing, but mobile games, they fill almost a different niche, or I guess in some cases the same niche, but mobile is seen as maybe something that is kind of less thought out, kind of slapped together, only thought about for what kind of profits these games can make, that kind of thing. As a mobile developer, how do you see mobile games fitting into the current ecosystem? Is this replacing traditional consoles and PCs? Is this something that works alongside where, obviously you can't lug around a console all day long? Where do you see mobile in the marketplace? Or are there people who just simply prefer mobile overall?
Well, when we launched our first game, Chronoblade, it was running on PC and mobile. So it was running on Facebook on the browser canvas.
Right.
And so we had to think about how do you make a game that runs well on both kind of keyboard and on the touchscreen. And it was a very a weird idea at the time, because you had separate mobile games and you had separate PC games. But now your mobile is catching up in terms of power and kind of consumer behavior. They're expecting console quality games with real controls and PvP and all that on mobile as well. So I don't think mobile is replacing anything. I think we'll get to a point where people will enjoy one game, and it's a game as a service that run on all windows, all devices. It can be, if you want the best experience, you're playing on a console in your living room. If you're at work or something, you can play on PC. If you're on the road, you're playing on mobile. It's gonna be a different experience. It's not gonna be optimal on each of the scenarios, but just having that access wherever you are, whether you're doing a serious competition for prizes or just casually grinding or buying something, doesn't matter. So I think we'll get to a point where all these three platforms are kind of fusing into one giant market.
Yeah, so platform agnostic, that that would certainly be something, and we've certainly seen something like that with other mobile games. Obviously, the hugest one being Fortnite is you're able to play that on mobile and on PC, and it's really kind of hitting all the right buttons in all the different markets. It's really exciting to see that something can grow on PC and on console and on mobile all at the same time, and no one's really upset about it. So that's great. Yeah. And actually, kind of just speaking about what we were just talking about in general. Talk about the gaming market in general. The game industry in general, because right now we're seeing a lot of, I guess, a lot of the older incumbent franchises and companies and publishers. They are, I guess, cutting back. They're trying to trying to innovate where I guess only a couple are really innovating. I mean, just as a publisher looking at the game industry right now, is this a good time for, to be a publisher? Is this a good time to be someone who plays video games? I mean, what are your feelings?
I think it's a great time to be a publisher. So, before you had these large publishers and you had developers and you had, publishing developer relationship. You had to go, if you're a developer, you had to go find a publisher. And that's mainly because, physical distribution was such an important factor for your success. So you had to get shelf space and things like that. Only the large publishers really had access to that.
Mm-hmm.
But as we talked about before, like as all these three platforms meld into one, digital distribution is becoming very, very powerful. So it's becoming a lot easier for smaller developers to publish on their own. For instance, like nWay, we're not a big publisher, but we were able to publish our own games on both PC and also on mobile and service it globally. And so I think it's the barrier to entry into kind of reaching the widest audience possible. And again, as like PC and mobile and console come together, it's going to be a very, very large market. Mm-hmm. It's a very exciting time to be publishing your own games right now.
I couldn't agree more. And really, it's to me, it's really exciting to see because, when you do go through one of the major publishers, when you, go through one of the big guys, eventually things get either watered down or just the core experience. If it's not something that has been proven in the past to be successful, then they're not going to do it. But like you said, with your Power Rangers IP and, you were able to make this solely PvP game, I mean, maybe some of the other publishers would have said, no, that's never been done before, and we're not going to risk it. We're not going to take the chance. But with digital distribution, you're absolutely right. People and publishers and really individuals can get their ideas out there to a large audience, and that's really, really cool to see. And hey, cool to see that you're doing it as well. So, all this 2019, if 2018 was any indication, we're seeing things, and we're going to touch on esports and things like that in a little bit. But we saw the gaming market grow, but at the same time, we saw a lot of consternation, a lot of worry over, I guess, existing publishers, because we saw a lot of very high profile large names kind of go out of business. Some of the flagship franchises are getting scaled back, and yet at the same time we're seeing indie games really on the rise because hey, if you can put something out for a lot less barriers to entry, and we're seeing a lot of new games, but a lot of bigger older games are kind of pulling away. Some predictions for 2019 for the gaming industry. How do you see this going?
Yeah, I think this year is going to be very exciting for game developers because it's going to be the year of disrupting the big guys.
Yeah.
So I think I wrote about like 9 predictions that's going to happen in 2019, but I love to hone into maybe 3 main ones. The first one is what we talked about, kind of the many screens, one experience, where we're going to see mobile, PC, and console, kind of all these platforms catch up to each other in terms of infrastructure, technology, and consumer behavior, and all 3 will fuse into one giant market. I think that's going to disrupt a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Second is that subscription model making a comeback. I think we're going to see subscription make a comeback as kind of the free-to-play model is hitting the fatigue point. Last 5 years, the free-to-play and the monetization tactics there have kind of dominated you've seen like billion-dollar games pop up with that model. But some of the tactics are not healthy.
They're not healthy, and some of them are very predatory for, I guess, video games. There's no secret. There's a younger audience there, and loot crates, I think, is what you're about to allude to. But I will say that not healthy is one thing, but we saw last year the beginnings of not legal. I mean, they're starting to outlaw those as well.
Yeah, there's gonna be legal changes. The core gamers, as they move on to other platforms, from console to all these other platforms, they're going to be more sensitive to those kind of things. So, my second prediction is that the subscription models, which kind of flourished back when we played, World of Warcraft, all these big MMOs, are going to make a comeback in all sorts of platforms. Third one is the rise of streaming game services. So, I think that's gonna make it's gonna also come back because it came out maybe 5-6 years. I can't remember exactly. It was like On Live and Gaikai. It wasn't successful back then, but now there are some changes. One is kind of this big upgrade in infrastructure coming, mainly driven by 5G, which will hit mobile and your home connectedness. And 5G is going to be vastly faster than not only LTE but Wi-Fi and your landline as well. So that upgrade is a big thing. And then second, also the consumers, because of the massive success of streaming video services like Netflix, just being kind of the consumer behavior fitting well with this kind of service. Those are my main.
And of course, just to jump in here, that follows. I guess other success stories that follow that. You could think of Netflix, except instead of a service like movies, you would look at something like a bunch of different video games that you wouldn't have to download. Imagine if you had a library of, let's say, 400 games that you could hit play on any one of them. They would be up to date, ready to go, your account, and just jump right into it. That's kind of the dream. Oh, and also on top of that, again, kind of to your first point about any platform, that's the beauty of streaming video games, is that it doesn't matter if you have the world's worst PC and you're running on a toaster, or if you're running on a mobile phone, or if you're running on the best hardware available. You're going to get the same experience, and hopefully the best experience on all of those platforms. And so I think you're right that's going to be huge when it comes, but there were some limitations, including things like latency, that yes, the infrastructure has been upgraded. It's just, I guess it kind of ties into subscription for games. Do you think that we're going to start seeing, I guess if you subscribe to a service like, Gaikai or, whatever the new streaming service is going to be, do you think that, because then having to go through and either pay for a subscription for a game or buy those games within the subscription, do you think that that's going to change a little bit too? Like, maybe having like a la carte games ready to go, or because that affects sales as well. If you don't have to buy the games and you could just use the games.
Yeah. We have experience with that at nWay. Like right now, our Power Rangers game is a free-to-play game, but we recently added a subscription service. Now, having both subscription and in-app purchases combined together is actually a very powerful business model. So imagine a service where you pay the baseline subscription, have access to all this game. Maybe you don't get access to a new game for a while unless you pay premium. Mm-hmm. Or there are certain games that are not available to your library. I mean, we've seen this kind of thing before in many services. And that's what I mean by consumers being ready to accept these type of services because they have so much experience with it now. I think it's very disruptive. It's going to be very disruptive for a lot of large players, especially the platforms. And we've seen them being disrupted already with Epic creating their own platform, own store, and lowering the prices. They're going to have to really kind of show that they can bring value to justify the 30% that they take, or innovate and bring something new to the table. So yeah, a lot of exciting things happening in 2019 that's going to be very disruptive for the income.
Yeah, and by the way, looking at some of your other points here, the traditional gaming console isn't going away. That was something that I guess is still talked about, and I wanted your feelings on that because we saw, I think it was with Windows 8 and Windows trying to make it so that, and they kind of put their plans on hold for the Xbox One, but Windows 8 tried to have a unified operating system that it didn't matter if you were phone, PC, Xbox, whatever Windows device you were using, you would have the same user experience. As it turns out, people on PC don't like using a mobile phone operating system for their whole computer. It's just, it just doesn't work. So this number two, traditional gaming consoles aren't going away. We saw them try to absorb into, I guess, other markets, the PC market and things like that. But I think with, the Switch, if nothing else, has shown that consoles, especially innovative consoles, certainly have a place. You don't see consoles going away. You don't see the rise of PC gaming just kind of absorbing consoles.
No, I don't really see it going away. I think there are a few things that these guys are doing that's very smart. Their first thing is that they're lifting kind of their walled gardens. They're allowing cross monetization. But something that's unexpected, right? Because like, let's say you got a game on Switch, but then you paid for it on mobile or you paid for it on PC, and then you got that item on Switch, and Nintendo is not getting any revenue from that, but they're still allowing it for the benefit of the ecosystem as a whole. I think things like that is something that's very smart that these guys are doing, that's keeping them relevant, and they are catching up really fast in terms of having games as a service. So before, a lot of these console games were mainly single-player experiences, but now you're seeing online games and games as a service doing really well on these platforms. And to my earlier point, as you go to sort of the one build multi-platform world, everybody's going to want the best experience for the game, right? Still, the best experience is in your living room with your large TV, you can still play the game, on your phone or on your PC, but you want that best experience as well. So, and it's similar to how how the movie theater continues to be a force in the movie industry. The console in your living room hooked up to your large TV is going to be, it's going to stay.
Right. No, and I think you're absolutely right. And also the idea that, hey, games are social, and having friends over to play, that's still going to be, and of course you can play through a mobile phone or something like that, but being able to play together, that's never going to go away. And actually, speaking of playing together, that does kind of segue nicely into our next topic, which is esports. It's a topic here on the show frequently. On our Gamer Tuesdays, we really try to keep up to date. But I will say that overall, esports has seen, so Heroes of the Storm recently, Activision Blizzard said that they were pulling out, but other scenes such as League of Legends, they recently had their World Cup. It was hugely televised. The amount of viewers are crazy. And I think that's the most important part, where esports, and here, as you wrote, being able to play the game and understand the game and know the game, that's good. It's going to help you, just like if you watch football or soccer or anything else. Knowing how the game is played is going to help your viewing experience. But, really, if I don't know anything about football, if I sat down and said, all right, so those guys in those jerseys are against those guys in those jerseys, and they want to get that ball to the other end of the field, it's a pretty obvious thing. You can sit down and watch it and pick it up. That's something that esports has struggled with. If it's your first time watching a StarCraft 2 tournament, maybe you don't understand clearly what's going on and why something is exciting. Everyone else cheers. You're sitting there going, why are you cheering? Having games, as you say here, broadcast ready, how is that working out? Because being able to see a video game instantly and then understand what the objective is, that's really hard for some games. How do you think esports is shaping up, and how do you think it's tackling some of its challenges?
Yeah, esports getting a lot of momentum right now, as you talked about, but I think it's still at its infancy, where the game is mainly fun to watch for players who are actively playing the game and know what's going on. Overwatch is a good example where it's a great game, but it's very hard to follow. Everything moving so fast. Yeah. For a newbie, like, what's going on? Why are they cheering? Imagine if basketball was only fun for people who are actively playing the game like every day or a few times a week. The size of the market would be much smaller, right? Mm-hmm. So imagine, but I think so. This was part of my prediction too. Like, because esports is such a big buzzword right now and getting a lot of money, a lot of good investor money, a lot of VC money flowing into this, I think you're going to see games that are designed and developed from ground up to be an esports game, and the smart developers are going to design it so that it's mainly fun to watch, kind of the way reality TV is designed to be fun to watch. so that although you're not participating on these TV shows, it's actually fun to watch. There's drama in there. The stars are born, and there's story, and the whole. Every time it goes on, there a story forms from it.
Yeah.
So imagine a game like that being a big sports game, and I think that once the game comes to the market, that kind of hits the sweet spot there. I think we're going to really see the rise of esports, and also the way esports is broadcasted. I think HQ Trivia is actually a good example where you have a host and you have these games that begin at a certain time. You'll see these events that are massive with massive viewers coming in, and yeah.
It certainly does have, and really, this is the cool part where video games don't have to really blaze a new trail. They have to adopt what has been working in sports. Esports, sports, obviously, they're named very similarly because, hey, the aspects do follow. There are teams, there's competition, there's athletes. Either someone who plays video games at a professional level versus someone who plays, the sport at a professional level. Really, all they have to do is just follow what works for some of the others. And hey, I've definitely seen traditional sports teams and organizations take an interest into video games because as a younger generation comes up, they're oddly enough not as interested in traditional sports. They're more into esports. And hey, I think being in video games, it's a very exciting time, and I'm happy to see it. So we have time to get into one more topic before we go to break. And TK, I got to be honest with you, I'm not too. So far you have been right. I'm looking forward to all these things, and I agree with nothing else. I agree with your opinions. But number 4, I think that the blockchain as a technology is pretty darn cool. It can do a lot of things, and it's going to help a lot of industries, but it's not a consumer-facing technology. And although you wrote about that, where behind the scenes it's going to work to, I guess, turn economies of video games into something that kind of like what you were mentioning with if you buy something on the Switch, it's going to be available otherwise. And how do you sell, trade digital goods? Hey, that's going to be the blockchain. But I think at the same time, you're looking at a market where, first of all, cryptocurrency in general has kind of been on the decline for the past couple of months. It's not as popular as it once was because people aren't making Lamborghinis and boatloads of money off of cryptocurrency. But just in general, we mentioned loot boxes. Some some governments and things like that would have you declare your cryptocurrency on your returns as assets, as things that you have to report. Don't you think that integrating blockchain into video games as digital currency maybe is like too much of a legal minefield to really navigate? Or are you kind of sticking with blockchain being adopted into video games?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to take a step back and kind of talk about, define the whole thing here.
Sure.
It gets kind of confusing. There's cryptocurrency, there's blockchain technology, and there's blockchain games. And I agree with you that blockchain games, we've seen like CryptoKitties, and these games that are basically based on blockchain, you need to have a wallet set up in order for you to log in and play the game. These games, at first, they gathered a lot of kind of momentum, and there was a lot of money being made. But it fell down pretty quickly. I think the maximum DAU that we see on these games these days, like in the hundreds, like 200 daily active users, which is really minuscule compared to mainstream games.
Right.
So you're right. I mean, blockchain games, I don't think is working out right now. But where I'm coming from is, the Magic the Gathering, that game, the card game?
Of course, yeah. It has cost a lot of money for me. Yes, of course.
Yeah, so it's a game that it's a game that you play, but it's also something that you can collect. If you get a really rare card, it can, has secondary market value, and some people don't even play the game; they just actively collect these cards. Same thing with the Pokemon cards. It's crazy easy with younger kids, and a lot of them don't even play the game. Although there are world competition and things like that. So what I meant is I think there are new technologies being developed right now where you can have blockchain within the game, but not as kind of the core loop of the game. So you can play the game without having any wallet or having any blockchain. So you don't even have to know anything about blockchain. You're playing the game, but you can find rare items with true scarcity associated with it.
And TK, we're going to pause right there. There's music playing in the background. I know you can't hear it, but we're going to come right back. Everyone, we'll be right back. More TK, more nWay, and more talk about video games. Everyone, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Computer America.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. We are 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And everyone, we are continuing on with of course, TK, nWay. And if you missed any part of today's program, please feel free to check out computeramerica.com or wherever podcasts are heard. And you can download today's show in its entirety and really, catch this whole conversation because I think it's been a lot of fun. It's very, very interesting. And TK, thank you for providing your insight on this and coming on and telling us, about nWay. But just before the break, we left with the idea of not really cryptocurrency, but blockchain being integrated into video games. And I think you're making the point where, and honestly, this is something that video games have been lacking for a long time. But there's been that kind of black market, underground market of, you mentioned World of Warcraft. I'm definitely an avid player of that. When you earn items in World of Warcraft, you can either go the seedy underbelly route and you can try to sell these items on eBay, or you can try to go to some of these third-party sites that are not legal and try to sell these things. But it's a matter of, how do you trade a digital currency? Because right now, everything is completely owned by the developer, by the publisher, by the video game maker. You don't technically own anything. And I think, and of course, having access to it is, in a lot of people's mind, they do own it. If you earned it and it's in your inventory in the game, you do own it. But I think blockchain is going to be the key ingredient to kind of bring this into a legitimate space. And again, something that has been gnawing at a lot of different video games for a long time. So I think you were just about to get into how this could be kind of utilized.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about how blockchain technology can be used in a way that's much more user-friendly. So the player doesn't even have to know about blockchain. They can find something in the game, and the game could let the player know, hey, this is a blockchain item, and if you want to transfer it to your wallet, then go set it up and do it. If not, you can just leave it. And so that kind of reduces the barrier to entry there and get people educated as to what blockchain is. And what it does is it also brings true scarcity to the ecosystem. So if there's only 20,000 of those special sword in the game, that is not refutable. It's true in a non-centralized way, a distributed way. So I think that's a big innovation. People, even after the game dies, people will be able to own that item and continue to trade. Kind of similar to how some of these Metro coins, even after the Metro has stopped running, is still valuable.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I meant by kind of the games adopting blockchain. I don't think it's right to bring it into the core loop of the game, but to bring true scarcity into some of the items in the game. I think that's an exciting frontier.
Okay, and there I completely see eye to eye with you. Perfect. So let's see, and by the way, these 9 points, they're very well thought out. I definitely do like them. Let's say number 8. So this is something that we kind of do here. We stream on Twitch. There are hundreds of thousands of people who try to make it as a streamer out there. Luckily, we're a radio show. The streaming's just for everyone's kind of viewing pleasure. But yeah, the idea that you can turn on a webcam and that you can play a video game and have people join you, watch you, truly be a different kind of social experience, that's something unique. And fortunately, I should say unfortunately, it's definitely caught on here. It's definitely caught on here when it comes to the United States for people to do this. You have one here, point 8, virtual streamers come to the West. What do you mean by that when you say virtual streamers come to the West?
So what I mean by that is something really phenomenal is something really unique is happening in Japan right now. I think it's because of the facial recognition technology just being mass market now. You don't have to wear this equipment with dots on your face to do real-time casting of your facial expressions. And you're seeing these streamers in Japan. I think there were 5 of them in 2007, but now there's 5,000 of them. Where they have millions of followers and they're big stars, and nobody has seen their face. They only know their voice and the virtual character.
So something kind of like the Animoji for iPhones, where it's just a virtual representation of their face, but never actually see the person.
Yeah, Animoji has proven to us that all you need is a webcam in order to capture your face. And this is also because AI is getting so much more powerful. Before, you had to be in the movie industry, you have these dots. It was very expensive to do those things. But that has become commonplace now. So we're going to go in the future where anybody can set up a virtual character and they could create their own persona in the online world. And nobody has to know what they really look like. That gives you the freedom to really create your own character. So what I mean by this is we're going to see stars being born in the virtual space without games. Imagine if Lara Croft, she became a star because of the game Tomb Raider, but imagine a character like that is born outside of games in different medium with huge followers, and that character gets licensed out to many different type of games later on, kind of similar to how a human being becomes a star outside a movie, and then eventually they get to star in various movies. So I think that's something that
almost and sorry to jump in, but almost like a mascot where you could design a character and have its own brand, but then it could then be utilized for kind of any different video game or movie or really anything. Like you create a character and then that character then becomes its own entity rather than just, X person, because X person can't be duplicated, but the mascot can.
Yeah, and you're going to see agencies that create many different stars, many different personalities, many different, like talent agencies, basically owning IP to a whole bunch of virtual characters, and that could be a big business going forward because licensing out these IPs to be used in different. It could be movies, could be could be concerts, could be music. You saw with Riot Games creating a group called KDA, which got over 100 million views, and also recently got licensed out to a game called Beat Saber. So now you can actually see that in that game as well.
That's a fun game, and actually, and one we use that as a segue. And by the way, whatever gets me watching Mario from Nintendo play Dark Souls, if they can make that happen, I'm completely on board with that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But yeah. I do want to say, Beat Saber, wildly popular game, really one of the best games if you want to test the. I don't want to say limitations because we just don't know those yet, but kind of test the real features of VR when it comes to puts you in a completely different world. You have motion controls. It's visually striking, very simple to understand, but a lot of fun to play. VR, AR, it's no secret. There's been a lot of problems getting adoption rate up, and the reasons for that include everything from the purchasing of high-power graphics cards, where the market can only be as large as people buying these things, and the buying rate of those really expensive graphics cards hasn't been that high over the past couple of years, but we do see a steady increase. So my question to you: VR, AR, or actually, I guess I should just be more specific to VR. Is it still a space worth watching, or is it just for people who are, kind of like train enthusiasts, where it's going to have its own market and they're going to be happy? But is VR still something to watch?
No, I definitely think it's something to watch. If you look at in Asia right now, or for the reasons that you mentioned, kind of the PC-based VR has not taken off. It's mainly kind of the mobile-based standalone headsets. And as mobile devices become more powerful, these chipsets become cheaper and more powerful, you're going to have headsets that come out that are inexpensive, lightweight, just put on your head without a PC, and that will change a lot of things. Right now, it's for many reasons, it's not there yet in terms of adoption rate. But kind of going back to the virtual streamer thing, one thing that's really powerful there is they can actually have events where people wearing VR headsets can go and interact with these stars. Real life stars, like you can't have a million people go interact with Brad Pitt or whatever. But with virtual characters, you can do that, and with gifting and things like that, interaction, it could be a big business as well. So VR and AR, I think is definitely a space that to watch for, especially VR. We'll see when Apple jumps in, but once that happens, I think is the time when.
And it's kind of funny. Along the vein of AR, you just made me think of it, and I'm sure that you mentioned it, but it finally clicked in my head that we are getting very comfortable with the idea of digital assistants, of your Siris, of your Alexas, of your Google voice assistant. You're really just kind of one company away from there being a built-in digital assistant from one of these large companies, and someone makes a character that you can see using special glasses or on your computer screen, TV, however you want to use AR, and you are now, instead of interacting with, an Alexa speaker, you're now interacting with an Alexa avatar that, kind of follows you around, or you can talk to, makes eye contact. That's a spooky future. Thank you for putting that into my head.
Yeah, imagine having your personalized AI assistant that evolves as you get, as it gets to know you better, and you can customize it, their looks and everything, personality, voice, follows you around, Using AR, you can have it pop up on your desk, and it could be like an operating system that you can do all sorts of tasks through it. And yeah, I think that that's going to be an exciting future.
Exciting is a word. Dystopian may be another, but that's certainly very, very strange. But hey, but like I said, it's not a far leap from the imagination. All it's going to take is a couple more iterations of VR, AR, which are undoubtedly coming. So, all that being said, again, nWay, your position in the market, you're going to be, I guess, trying to bring these experiences into the market and really, I guess, take advantage of everything that you're talking about. You seem very forward facing, kind of what's coming around the bend, and you want to be positioned right there, taking advantage of whatever new technology people are using. Talk about the future of nWay. Are you looking for new IPs to launch new games? Are you looking to iterate upon your current games? What is the future of nWay?
I mean, it's the same from the very beginning. At the beginning, we formed nWay to create competitor games and have it accessible on emerging platforms. At that time, the emerging platforms were mobile and browsers and smart TV. But now it's things like AR, VR, blockchain, all these things. So yeah, I think it's going to a future where developers will create one experience, and consumers are going to be able to access that experience through many different types of platforms. And that's the world that we're seeing, and that's where nWay is heading towards to, where we're going to create games and other experiences that are accessible by all sorts of windows and mediums that's going to rise.
Very, very cool. So, before we say goodbye, I do want to, if people wanted to give a try to Chronoblade, Power Rangers, or just find more information about nWay, where can they go to play your games, and where can they go to find out more information?
You can go to nWay.com, also play PlayLegacyWarriors.com as well, or simply just go to the App Store and search for Chronoblade or Power Rangers, and you'll find our games.
All right, yep, and I see it here, a link to the App Store, link to Google Play Store, very, very cool. And TK, again, thank you for coming on the show and giving us some insight, and really, it was, these are the conversations that I really like to have, because especially at the beginning of the year, all the way in January, we're going to be looking back next December and going, wow, he was right, or wow, that, we never saw that coming. And it's always a lot of fun. So I think that's just about it, everyone. Once again, TK Taehoon Kim. He is the co-founder and CEO of course, nWay. There we go. I don't know how I forgot that, but TK, thanks for coming on the show. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, everyone. So there he goes. And hey, as I said, it is honestly a lot of fun. This is a part of the industry where thinking about the possibilities of video games really begins to get the gears knocking, wondering, hey, what's the next big thing? So all that being said, one quick announcement before we move on to computer and technology news. And just learning about this, I wish I had learned about it, well, honestly, before it happened, so I could, let everyone who couldn't listen now. But Computer America, we are hosted by IRN, and it's, of course, he said it on Facebook, so that's probably my fault. So through a Facebook update, but everyone, if you are currently not hearing us on IRN, and if if for some reason, well, hey, you can hear us on IRN, here you go. IRN is currently running or doing some maintenance, doing some upgrades, looking forward to, to everything that's happening over there, and good things, I promise. But in the meantime, one little hiccup. We are not being broadcast on IRN currently. So if this somehow makes it to your ear and, you normally listen to us through IRN, well, guess what? You now have to listen to us through one of our other mediums, be that our podcast, be that our live video feed, be that YouTube. But currently IRN not carrying us, and our feed will come back January 14th. So that's next Monday. January 14th, mark your calendars. We'll be back up and running. Looking forward to it. But in the meantime, still lots of ways to get your Computer America fix. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get things started here with computer and technology news. And let's see. So I'll leave you with a view outside our office, and then we'll, of course, jump into computer and technology news. Here we go. Why don't we start off with, yes, it's a beautiful day outside. So why don't we go ahead and start off with our first and foremost topic. And this seems to be a pretty good, pretty big story at least. I can't say good, but Marriott. You've heard of them. They run hotels, and normally they do a pretty good job. But turns out Marriott concedes. I don't know why they have to concede anything. They should be warning ahead of time. Concedes 5 million passport numbers lost to hackers that were not encrypted. So this probably has something to do with the information of 500 million guests, where that happened at the end of November, if you recall. This coming to us, by the way, from the New York Times, Mr. David Sanger, talking about really, an extension of what happened at the end of November. So when it was first released, they said that they had stolen the reservation database of Starwood, a major hotel chain Marriott had acquired, but at the time, the company said that the figure was a worst-case scenario because it included millions of duplicate records. So, essentially, let's say if you stayed multiple times, I'm assuming you would have multiple entries of those 500 million, but still not good. Now, here's the thing. On Friday, the firm said that the teams of forensic and data analysis have identified approximately 383 million as the upper limit. So, people in the nitty-gritty poured over the data that was potentially compromised, and that is what they, have identified as the new worst case. And they said that for the total number of guests for records lost, the company still says it has no idea who carried out the attack, and it suggests that the figure would decline over time as more duplicate records are identified. One can hope. But here's the point. Here is the point of this whole article. And they said that what made this attack different was the presence of passport numbers, which could make it far easier for intelligence services to track people who cross borders. And now, in December, the New York Times reported that the attack was part of a Chinese intelligence gathering effort. Hey, the Chinese, if they did this one, they sure hit a jackpot. Now, here's the problem. 5 million passport numbers were lost. So that's one of the data points that were collected, but they were not held in encrypted places, which is something that very, very basic cybersecurity practices tells you, is that if you have valuable data, and trust me, people's passport numbers are valuable data. If you have valuable data sitting on your servers, make sure that they are encrypted. Make sure that they're not just sitting there in plain text. If someone were to get the encrypted data, it doesn't matter because, hey, you can't decrypt it. But if you never go through that step, then you are obviously, you have a problem. Now, they said that there's no evidence that the unauthorized third party accessed the master encryption key needed to decrypt the encrypted passport numbers. They said in a statement, but so Marriott has said for the first time that 5.25 million passport numbers were kept in the Starwood system in plain unencrypted data files, meaning that they were easily read by anyone inside the reservation system. An additional 20 million passports were kept in encrypted files, and those were hopefully not compromised because they did not have the master encryption key. It seems like the data practices of the Starwood system, which Marriott had purchased and was therefore then responsible for, did not have some of the basic protections that the Marriott system itself had. But even so, 5 million plain text, not good. Let's see. So to wrap this up, the company said that about 8.6 million credit and debit cards were involved in the incident, but all those were encrypted. All but 354,000 cards had expired by September 2018, because obviously it seems like the Starwood acquisition happened in 2014, so most credit and debit cards expire within 3-4 years of being issued. So that's something to be said. Any rate, so far there are no known cases in which stolen passports or credit card information was found in fraudulent transactions, but all in all, just paints the picture of what happened at Marriott and that whole thing. So not good. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and check out some of these other stories we have here. Only enough time for just one more, so I got to make it a good one. Why don't we talk about, let's see. Wow, a lot of good ones. Don't know which one to pick. All right, just going to pick one at random here. Why don't we discuss... Okay. Sure, why not? So you may have been fooled by this, or you may be subject to this, but to keep bots and to keep fraudulent, to keep bots, to keep fraudulent activity, to keep fake accounts from flooding the internet, destroying the internet as we now know it, they came up with a pretty simple idea, and it's called CAPTCHA. CAPTCHA is the idea that you see those little squiggly numbers and letters and, or I should say ReCaptcha, where, those little hard to read pieces, they're not easily identifiable by computers, and therefore it's a pretty good way to stop any kind of automated system from spamming an account, making a post, whatever you don't want these things to do. You throw up a ReCaptcha and you're done. But here we have the story. Researchers fool ReCaptcha with Google's own speech-to-text service, saying that the new method has a 90% success rate, which is really good, at tricking the robot into thinking it's human. They said that since the dawn of CAPTCHA, those annoying little I am not a robot tests used by websites to weed out bots, and by the way, this coming to us from Motherboard, saying that we have tried to break them with reverse image searches, deep learning, and experimental neuroscience data. The point is, we've tried to compete with these things, but overall, they're pretty good at what they do. Now, researchers at the University of Maryland claim that their CAPTCHA fooling method, Unencrypted, nicely named, can fool Google's ReCaptcha. One of the most popular types of these, I'm getting tired of saying the word CAPTCHA. To add insult to injury, Unencrypted tricks Google's algorithm by using Google's own speech-to-text service. They had developed this in 2017 using Google's own free speech-to-text service to trick the system into thinking a robot is human, saying it's an Ouroboros of bots. And according to their paper, they download the audio CAPTCHA, segments the audio into individual digital audio clips, uploads the segments to multiple other speech-to-text services, including Google's, then converts these services' response to digits. After a little homophone guesswork, it then decides which speech-to-text output is closest to accurate and uploads the answer to the CAPTCHA field, saying that this old method returns an 85% success rate. Pretty darn cool. So again, to talk about how they did this, essentially you download the audio file, you piece it up into each individual character that would be within a CAPTCHA, and then you run those through a speech-to-text, such as Google speech-to-text or any other speech. There's a number of them out there. And then you copy and paste each one of those, kind of giving you an average, whereas those average would then be used to fill in the line and pass the CAPTCHA. This is not in real time. I think that this would take a couple of seconds to really do in an automated fashion, but to return with a 90% success rate after improvements, that's pretty impressive. And the point of researchers finding out about this is that they then have to compete with the findings, because you'd rather a good guy find out about it and let you know rather than a bad guy. Everyone, the music means that we are just about done here with Computer America. Thank you so much for tuning in, and hey, I'm glad that you're able to join us. Until next time, have a great day, have a great weekend. We'll catch you here Monday again. IRN down for the week. We'll be back January 14th, but in the meantime, catch us here, everyone. Bye-bye.